So let's kind of go back to Blackpoint, and I
Sure.
want to say that I try my best to keep up with what you guys are doing, but it's hard. You guys are there's
Tough.
always announcements, there's always things you guys are doing that are cutting edge.
Yep.
I mean, I learned that you guys basically are the only company, I think, or you were the first company in the world to do live response for MS365, which is
Yep.
great. That's what 90% of our clients are using. But how does Blackpoint leverage kind of these advanced technologies and threat intelligence to
Sure.
detect and respond to cyber threats so effectively?
Yeah. Really, the fact is, we're one of the only organizations, if not the only organization, that I can think of that has that ecosystem of products. Right. I mean, again, we built everything to loosely align to the NIST framework. Right. The identify, protect, detect. Respond and recover framework essentially, and the goal here is to really make sure that we can keep you as far towards the left of those pillars as humanly possible. So we've built out an ecosystem that allows you to start and get visibility into each one of those areas. But the biggest piece is that all of our products they're built in house. That's the key to it all. Everything, we're not relying on third parties for updates, for features, for any of those things. And we built it to all integrate and correlate the events into an orchestrated platform for our threat hunters to allow machine learning and correlation to, as an attack is unfolding, regardless of the order of the kill chain, we can actually see it as it's happening, as opposed to a lot of MDRs that are out there, what they call themselves MDRs. They threat hunt based off of SIM logs, where there's an aggregation of all these logs, and we're good. SIMs are great. We're not here to bag on SIMs, but you can't
Right.
threat hunt off SIMs because you're threat hunting off of things that have happened, not things that are happening, right? And so that's where we focus on is the behavioral side of the house to identify, hey, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. If I've got 4 different solutions that are out there, 4 different products that are, email alert here, application alert here, this and this. Well, now I got to find someone to correlate those and put it together. That all takes time, and it's slower, and it's happened after the fact. Whereas our solution says, hey man, this, and this, boop, it all happened. It's happening right now. And that gets in front of one of our technicians, which has the ability, for instance, if we want to talk about timing, we have a service level objective of 15 minutes, which basically means that we say, hey, within 15 minutes, we have the ability, we will take a look at this alert. Here's where it gets really neat. On average, in 2023, the last numbers that I saw were from the time an alert comes in to a technician takes a look at it, escalates it, and an action is taken for us to actually isolate a device on an on-premise device like a Windows or Mac device. It's actually 14 and a half minutes from start to finish. So we're beating our SLO actually by taking action. Number one, when we're talking about cloud response for like M365 and Google Workspace, we're at about 7 to 7.5 minutes, as a matter
Wow,
of fact. So
that's awesome.
we're halving our SLO. So, and again, all of that has to do with the fact that we have the machine learning and the correlation. The orchestrated platform is the game changer.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. And that kind of answers my next question, which was basically kind of leading into how you guys are staying ahead of emerging threats and the
Yep.
technologies and all that stuff. It seems like you guys, I mean, you guys are really engineers.
Right.
You kind of it's all in-house. You created this platform, you packaged it, and you're trying to encompass it to where it's really kind of a one-stop shop. But
Well, sorry to interrupt, but to touch on that, how we're staying ahead of it is 2 different sides. Like, guess we engineered it based off of NIST. I think that's the baseline.
right.
But I mean, threat actors, they may be immoral, but they're not stupid. They understand what NIST is. They know that we've put all these controls into place, and so they're consistent. Why do we still have attacks? Why do we still have breaches? Because listen, they're not idiots, right? They're finding ways around these different things. So what we've done is we've got 2 different pieces of our team that actually filter our engineering pipeline. One is obviously our SOC. What are we seeing happening real time? And we also have a second organization inside of here, which is called the Adversary Pursuit Group. And their whole
Yeah.
responsibility is to identify forward facing attacks. What are the new things that are happening out there? Reverse engineering those things and informing product on those things. So we've got stuff that we're seeing out to other people that are happening. We got a team that focuses on that. We also have our SOC team that is focusing on things that are happening based on our telemetry. And those 2 pieces are actually funneling into our product development as well. So that is how we're actively staying away. That's why we always have something new. That's why we're always feature updates. That's why we're always adding features to the product as well. And that's why we're the leader in the industry.
No, and going back to your reports that we work up, I mean, you guys are diligent about explaining this in simple terms. I mean, you have a one page that reviews the APG and, kind of the standards and how you're reverse engineering. And it's the information is great, especially for business owners that don't deal with tech every day. And you mentioned NIST and you mentioned SOC. So for some of our kind of clients that aren't really,
Sure.
in the tech industry, can you kind of explain what NIST is and how that's kind of the standard, and then what an
Yeah.
SOC actually is?
Totally. So NIST is what's called a framework, right? So there's this concept called defense in depth in IT. And basically what defense in depth means is this. There are multiple, let's use a house. There's multiple ways inside of a house, right? Windows, doors, garage doors, right? If I really wanted to, I could rip the roof off, all these different things, right? But the truth of the matter is that defense in depth means that there's multiple ways to get inside of a house. I've got to make sure I cover all of those standard ways, right? Maybe we could put a gate outside of our house. Maybe I can, put an alarm system in. There's a number of different ways. However, as new pieces of entry is discovered, we also have to do that. So like, let's say, for instance, I did find another way into my house. Does that mean that I don't lock my doors anymore because this new thing is there? No, I still lock my doors, but I've still got to protect that new thing. The tough part about defense in depth is that it is kind of a concept. I can have 10 different conversations and it's going to be a little bit different on what the philosophy is behind it. So what we did to combat that was what we called frameworks. And by and large, probably the most adopted framework out there is NIST. It was from the National Institute of something technology. I can't remember what the
I think
standards. There we go.
Standards,
go. Standards, right? And so what they've basically done is they've said, hey, listen, we're going to create kind of a roadmap for a high watermark for cyber resiliency. And if you can cover these 5 pillars, then you can consider yourself highly resilient in the phrase of cybersecurity. So that's kind of what NIST is. It's a framework that people can follow. It's industry standard best practices that's continuously being updated, but it's basically someone that can kind of go across the board and say, hey, I follow this, and it's also verifiable, as opposed to like defense in depth, which is a little bit more philosophical. Now, when I say SOC or SOC, that stands for a Security Operations Center. My SOC, or my 24/7 SOC, is a group of individuals where we wake up every single day and we only do security, period, full stop. We're not here trying to take a look at hardware logs and make sure your computers are running fast, or, hey, if something were to happen and my printer can't print, right? That's not where we live. We don't do that in any way, shape, or form. We focus 100% on making sure that your organizations are tight from a security standpoint, and not just making sure that breaches don't happen or reporting when a breach does happen. We also offer things like vulnerability management and those kinds of things, so we can also give you information and details saying, hey, you may want to check here, 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 and here. Like, hey, that the lock on this door right now is a chain lock. Maybe we want to put a deadbolt here. Those kinds of things, right? So that's essentially what a SOC is. We 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, only focus on security for you as a small business or medium business.
Perfect. Exactly right. Not that you need me to confirm that, but
done this once or twice, Nate.
I mean, but for people that aren't in this, I mean, for people that aren't in this realm, I mean, totally. they may hear these terms, and I think that you explained it perfectly. I mean, that's great.
Thanks.
So give me some real world examples or some, some case studies. I know Blackpoint, you guys, I know you have some successful stories about times that you either stopped a cyber attack or halted a data breach. I know in our case, I mean, and again, you always hate to kind of like, oh, should I say this or not? But I mean, I can think of 2 instances where, the most vulnerable time our clients are going to get hit are typically between 12 a.m. to that 5 a.m. because that's
right.
If you're an over
holiday weekends,
exactly, that your systems are still up, no one turns anything off, but people are trying to hit it. But there were 2 cases where you guys actually stopped it and stopped it from hitting the main server of our clients. And again, that's not to say, because we have lack security. That's exactly what we hired you guys for. I mean, that's exactly what we needed you for, and you stopped a big headache. Now, did we have antivirus? Yes. But did we have backups? Yes. Did we have Yeah, what a pain in the rear that would have been. And who wants to go through that? And again, had that data been breached, it's not about just being destroyed anymore. Correct. It's about, hackers are going to release that, or they're going to do something else with it. I mean, so if you can, give me some other examples other than us that you guys have had some pretty successful stories with, stopping these bad
Yeah,
guys.
totally. I mean, and here's the thing, to your point, listen, you can't feel bad about that, right? I mean, the reality is, like, to the point earlier, again, immoral, but not stupid. Listen, they have clocks. They know how time zones work, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they know when you guys are working. They know when you're asleep, right? I mean, they're like terrible Santa Claus. You know what I mean? Like, this is why you need to have somebody watching it 24 hours a day. Their goal is to try. They're trying to find a way that they can gain maximum time inside of the network. Now, they are pivoting to speed over stealth as of late, for sure. But the reality of the situation is these are sophisticated attacks. This is not just some little rinky-dink, script person that's just running a quick little script and seeing what's happened. I'm sure there's some of those that are out there, but for instance, so I use this concept called lateral spread that I've talked about, I think maybe once or twice on here. And lateral spread basically means this: when they get into a specific device, they want to see, based on what I have available to me right now, as far as permissions and authority and those kinds of things, can I get to other devices, right? Maybe I jumped in on a laptop. Well, can I get to the server, or can I get to a file share, or whatever the case may be? Well, traditionally, that has stayed from on-premise to on-premise. Like, if I've got a laptop in an environment, I'm going to try to get to a server in that same environment. Or if I'm in a M365 environment, do I have the ability to, change passwords and get into another area of M365? Well, here is probably one of the things that we've never seen before. And I mean, I can't completely verify this, but I'm like 98% sure that there's not another company in the world that could have stopped this particular attack outside of Blackpoint. So we've got a couple of different pieces to our managed detection and response. We've got software that can sit on Windows and Mac devices, but we also have the ability to handle tradecraft for M365 environments and Google Workspaces environments. But we had a client that was only on-premise. They only had our Windows and Mac agents installed. Well, guess what? We have the ability here with our software to identify the source of an attack, even if it comes from a device that is not an agent of ours. Like, if somebody comes in with a rogue laptop or something of that nature, and they're starting to do some things, listen, I may not have information on that device, but I know that that's the device that's sourcing it. So as our technician was noticing that this malware was starting to get dropped on some of these devices, it noticed that it was coming from an M365 server. Mm-hmm. What had happened was that this particular threat actor, they identified, or they were able to get access to M365. They were then able to get admin credentials to a product called Intune. For those of you that don't know what Intune is basically a management product from Microsoft that allows a standardization of policies, and you can install applications through it, a number of different automation tools. But this is what I was talking about before. This software would never be flagged by an ADR. Intune is never going to be flagged. It's never going to be picked up by Next-Gen. But the behavior of what Intune is being used for, they were using live off the land technology, tradecraft in the cloud to run scripts on the local on-premise devices to install malware. It was the first of the kind that I've ever known of where there was a lateral spread from a cloud environment into a on-premise environment. But notice, keep in mind, we weren't managing their cloud at the time. We were only the IT company had, and not through any fault of their own. It was just not throwing shade on them. It was just we were only managing this. So what we did as an organization is we found out, hey, listen, this is coming from an M365. We're going to isolate these devices. We stopped the spread of the malware from Intune immediately at that point. However, we then onboarded their M365. Keep in mind, we onboarded them after the breach had already taken place, and we identified 10 other instances, 10 other accounts that had been compromised. We were able to remove access from those as well. And in like minutes, we were able to mitigate this mass, very sophisticated attack. And we've got tons of stories like that. We've some very sophisticated ransomware groups we were on the forefront of fighting against. And we're in this weird, like, we're in security. So like, we want to tell people, but we also like just want to keep fighting you. So I gain intel on it as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
you don't want to give too much up front. Yeah.
Correct. Right. Like, you don't want to tell the other team that that they're there, but
their plays.
You have to. Exactly. Correct. Yeah. So, but yeah, we've got all kinds of stories like that. But again, that's, I think, the most recent and most telling one. And I don't think there's anyone else in the world that could have stopped it the way that we did.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, tell me what else is going on at Blackpoint. I know you guys have, there's some partnerships, there's some
Yeah.
investment. So can you give
Yeah.
me just to kind of wrap up, what's new? What's going on?
Yeah.
What's next
Well, I
year
mean,
look like?
yeah, no, definitely. Well, I'm sure you guys have. For those of you that don't know, we had a massive round of funding through a couple. Actually, the um,
Bang.
arguably, if not, or the two largest venture capital firms to ever enter the small to medium sized business IT services world, Bain Capital and Excel. And the big reason why they jumped down and kind of take a look into us was because there's, again, like I talked about at the very beginning of this, unfortunately, small to medium sized businesses are being targeted at a rate that they've never been targeted. And they see that there's a massive opportunity for advanced cybersecurity solutions. And we've got the best stack. Again, I know I sound like a homer, but it's just kind of the reality of the situation, right? And
Yeah.
so because of that, there has been a massive infusion into product. We are really, really focused on a number of things going into 2024. But the biggest thing that we're not going to scrimp on is our innovation. The roadmap is very, very strong. And our goal here is to continue to add products that align to those industry standards to be able to help MSPs as well as small to medium sized business and mid-market and enterprise organizations really keep their competency as far left of boom as humanly possible. We are 100% all in on the product stack and really kind of tightening it up and making it stronger for the SMB community to be able to standardize on dramatically.
Awesome. That's great. We're glad to be on your team. You're on our team, however you want to put it, but that's amazing. So, all right. Well, I think that's all we had. I sure
Cool.
appreciate your time, and this was very informative. I know our clients and our prospects and those that we share this with will enjoy it, and it's good information. We do prioritize cybersecurity. It's one of
Sure
our
do.
it's a major thing these days. I mean, it's invaluable, really. I mean, you consider how hard people work to get their businesses to where they are, and it's so disappointing to see that 6 months after a breach, most small businesses, even after recovery, because of that short amount of downtime, within 6 months, 60% of them are out of business. It's sad.
Massive. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not. It's bad for them, and we think that protecting and making sure you have these layers, and for all the services you guys provide, and for what you do for us, we're appreciative, but we're also working with you guys as a team, and it's been a great partnership, and we appreciate you guys. So that's it.
Oh man, well, it definitely goes both ways. Partner's not a buzzword here. We're not like, oh, let's call Nate a partner. He's going to like us more and buy more stuff. John Murchison, our CEO, all the time talks about we have an ethical responsibility to not just the IT companies that we work with, but also the end users that they support. And he said it so much that if he says it another 2 or 3 times, I'm pretty sure he means it. I mean, I can't count how many times he's actually said it. It's not a line. That is the driving force behind what we do from the literal top here.
Awesome. All right. Well, Justin, appreciate you, man. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a good one, guys.
Appreciate it. Bye.